What's up, everybody? I'm about to give my 2 cents on the Joe Budden versus Charlamagne quote-unquote beef, although no one asked me for it, but it ain't stopped y'all, so I'm going to give my 2 cents, even though I think I have more than 2 cents. But just to stay with the culture and on task and verbiage, I'm going to give my 2 cents, although you have not asked my 2 cents. One, because I'm reading a lot of y'all comments, and a lot of y'all are 100% off and don't know what y'all talking about. Most of the stuff that comes across my timeline, like, y'all really don't know what y'all talking about. And to be clear, I don't know what I'm talking about as it relates specifically to the situation, because one, we don't know what their contract says. Let me repeat. We don't know what their contract says. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to break this down into, I'm going to get back into my Rutgers lecture type of thing. So I'm going to break it down into lectures. So there's going to be videos instead of lectures. I'm going to try to keep them within 10, 15 minutes so you could digest them and move on with your day. And if you have any questions or comments or concerns, you can just comment in the comment field wherever this is going to be posted. So before we start, let me get a couple things clear. One, this is not legal advice. So this is just me giving my analysis on a cultural situation that I see between two black men who are very powerful in the media world. Two, I'm going to make some assumptions to make this because but let me go on. Because this is a teachable moment, and I think I know it's a teachable moment, so that's why I'm doing this. I'm not just doing this for the like. I mean, we all do stuff for the likes and clicks. That's what social media is about. But I'm doing this because I first and foremost consider myself an educator before an attorney. So I think this is a teachable moment. So because I believe this is a teachable moment, I am going to assume and say certain things that I have no idea about, just so I can teach in the process. So the first thing I'm going to assume, and I don't know this to be true, but just for the sake, I'm not going to even assume, just say for the sake of argument, put it like that. For the sake of argument in the teachable moment, I'm going to say Charlamagne is just an employer of iHeartRadio. He does not own any IP that relates to the Breakfast Club. The other thing I'm just going to assume or state for the purposes of this teachable moment is that Joe Budden is the sole owner of the Joe Budden Show. And I will get in a later lecture on why I'm doing that, right? But for now, this is the starting points, right? So with the ground rules set, I'm going to break down the next 5 videos into the following buckets. So one, we're going to talk about the end game. That's going to be discussed in this video. So what is the end game? What does it look like? Who determines the end game? The next video will be on value. How do you value your services, your talent, your business, right? And then value bleeds into the most important thing, I think, with this specific situation is the negotiations, So I think this is where Joe and Charlamagne are having a difference of opinion, at least in the public's sphere, right? Because we don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. So that's when we're going to talk about negotiations as it relates from a employer versus a business owner to business to business versus employee, right? So I think those are going to be the next lectures, right? And so I want to correct something I said in the earlier video. I think the better teachable moment is to assume that Rory Parks Mall all have equity interest in the Joe Budden Show. And the reason I did that, because it goes into something I had talked about a while ago, and I talk about pretty often, is that it goes into the importance of the operator's agreement. So do they have an operator's agreement or not? I don't know. But I'm going to talk about how their ownership agreement and their negotiations can be affected by what's in the operator's agreement, right? So with that out the way, let's talk about the end game. I'm going to assume Charlamagne's end game is to make the most money as possible while having the most freedom to do whatever he wants outside of iHeart. I'm going to assume Joe Budden's as a company, Joe Budden Podcast, which includes all of them, they want to maintain as much ownership, at least right now, while licensing their intellectual property to whoever, right? And so we got those two. Those are the two that are arguing back and forth. The silent partners, I think we kind of know that they want to exploit both parties for as long as possible, for as much money as possible. I think like that's most corporate, end games. And when I say exploitation, I know some of y'all are triggered and y'all, it's problematic, but this is the way of the world. Like, we're all being exploited. At a certain point, if you work for someone, it's just how much are you being exploited, right? And I think, how much, and then the rarer your talent is, or the more profitable or the more grossing your talent is, the more money you can demand as talent and as the exploitee. Is that a word? I guess so. But that's what we're going to do, man. And hopefully y'all stay tuned. Let me know what you think. Let me go back to the end game and sum it all up. So this is the end game. So as you can see, the parties' end game are going to be in conflict in a lot of ways. And that's why, negotiation happens. And that's why, you read the fine print of your contract. That's why you hire the lawyer. That's why you hire a good manager, so you can plan these things and have the end game in sight. And the end game is a living end game, right? It might change. So, like, who's to say that Joe Budden and the crew will always want to own a Joe Budden podcast? So, as I said before, every company included in the Joe Budden podcast has basically three exit strategies. The members of the companies have three exit strategies. One is that they die, right? So then what happens to their interest, their equity interest, their membership interest after they die, that should be captured in the operator's agreement. So there's death. So there's closing the business. So for positive or negative reasons. So you may, for example, you may just create a business just to serve the need for face masks, right? And once that need is done, you can just close the business and sell the assets or liquidate the assets, whatever you're going to do, because the business has serves its purpose. It happens all the time. People create joint partnership agreements for to do a certain thing under the certain business umbrella, and then after the business is done, they close it down. The third and most interesting one is you being brought out, whether that's through a merger, whether that's through you're forced out, if that's captured with actions that are captured in the operator's agreement, or whether you just sell your interest to an outside party, or you could sell the interest to, well, I said brought out by your partners. You sell it to an outside, or you could sell your interest to an outside party, or you get captured by a merger, which is actually selling to an outside party, or you merging assets or whatever. And there's the other option of being pushed out. I think that is where the gold is at, especially in this situation, because we literally don't know what's going on, because we don't know what's in their contracts. All we know is that Joe does not like the contract. That's literally all we know. So hopefully you tune back in and let me know if you like it or not. Let me know if I should stop or not. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm gonna listen to you, but please like and comment and share it to people that you think will be interested in hearing the upcoming lecture. All right, peace.